Hello and welcome back to the Weird and Proud podcast. It's Sam
Simba.
and James and Simba. Our
James.
cat's like walking over everything. Simba, please don't do that. But that's just the beauty of working here in our house, in the studio that is our house. Well, it's not really. I mean,
It's more of an animal's house that we hang out at.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, that is, one of the gifts that keeps on giving on YouTube is that you'll see random animals just popping their heads in and stepping on all the equipment. And I just pray that they
Speaking of
don't.
YouTube, I love the lipstick tone today.
Oh yeah, I forgot that this actually was so dark. This is like a lip oil.
I like it.
But I forgot it. Thanks, John. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back. Another week, melting in the sun.
Oh my God.
Melting.
Today was awful.
Today was, literally, even next week, James, I don't even want to look at the weather
Is
ahead.
it supposed to be bad next week?
Tuesday is supposed to be like 98 degrees.
Oh, don't
Simba,
tell me these things.
Simba. Will you hit her? Mother.
And we're safe.
Okay. Oh,
those are real live things happening, people. These are real live things.
Lurched at the camera. I really hope she didn't mess anything up. Now I'm nervous. Oh my God. Okay, sorry, everyone.
Well, that was exciting.
That was so exciting. We have a great show for you. As always, we have one of my favorite subjects to talk about, and that is the portal to hell.
Oh, we're going to talk about many portals to hell today.
A portal to hell, and we're talking about portals to hell. I feel like there's a lot in Connecticut, by the way. A lot of portals to hell.
Why do you think that is? Or what have you found in your explorations?
Connecticut gives off like Satan vibes. You know?
think so?
I do. I think it's giving off Satan. It's giving, apparently there's all like these portal to hells all over, obviously at the mall. We talked about the mall last week. But there's just like, when I was looking up like portals to hell, a lot of them say they're in Connecticut. But none of them say that they're on 95 in Stamford
or like
on
close
the Merritt
to us.
Parkway.
Yeah.
No, I mean like I think my portal to hell is driving on 95.
Yeah. Good joke. Sorry. I like it.
You missed.
My
like,
brain was
joke,
trying
James.
to remember, and I know who are the famous paranormal investigators that live in Connecticut?
Warrens.
Okay,
yes, and that too. So that
then you've got
really
the
what
Warrens,
I was say.
right?
The Warrens, and they've done a lot of research, and they claim everything's a portal to hell. So,
but then being a Midwest kid, when you do come out here, it's just that there's so much dark history in this part of the Northeast because
it's older, obviously.
It's older.
Yeah.
What we did coming over here to indigenous peoples, like a lot of slavery stuff. Like there's just a lot of bad juju history around here.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's why there's more connections.
I think
to the portal to
I
hell.
would think so. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite portals to hell today. And I don't know if I've even mentioned on it, but we're going to talk about Dudleytown, which if you guys haven't heard of Dudleytown, I don't know if you would as much. Like, it's funny. Dudleytown technically is in northwestern Connecticut.
Okay.
So obviously I have a little bias because we now live here, but I had even heard about it when I was in Maine.
You had?
Yeah, just because, again, like I've always been obsessed with like ghost towns, abandoned towns. And obviously we're in New England, but I'm curious if any of you guys have ever heard of Dudleytown and you live outside of New England, Connecticut area. But this is a really creepy, spooky place. And it was based off the Blair Witch Project, they say.
Really?
Yeah. It gave inspiration for the Blair Witch Project. So
how so?
Did you ever see the Blair Witch Project?
I did, in the theater.
So when we talk about it and we go into detail, like that's kind of Dudleytown vibes.
Okay.
Spooky woods, old settlement, weird spooky buildings, curses, devils, Satan, portal to hell, witches, spooky things, ghosts,
all your
murder.
Favorites. Sprinkle a few kittens in there and you're happy.
Just give it some cats and I'm ready to move in. Where do I sign?
Where do I sign up to go?
I'm ready to go. No, so it's just very spooky. James is going to talk about his own scientific portal to hell.
Which we found these separately, unrelated.
And I was like, perfect. The theme is portals to hell. And then, of course, we have some amazing secrets, per usual. Also, I just want to say thank you so much for all the feedback. I put some questions out on Instagram stories on our Instagram, which if you're not following, please do. Fire flames content. And also, like, I'll just pop in there on stories every once in a while because it's kind of nice. Like, those are like, my real people, who are like watching the stories. Like, I'll just
The
pop in and be
weird and
like,
proud.
hey. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
my it's like my secret account. So make sure you're following along Weird and Proud on Instagram. Little shout out there. But just thank you for all the feedback. I think I think a lot of people have said longer episodes. People have about the whole like secret feedback when we were
Oh.
talking last week. People have said they like the idea of longer episodes or doing a second episode. We're still trying to play around because I don't know what it is too, but like if I see a podcast is like an hour 30, I'm just like,
That's just too long for me.
yeah, and
Not that
it's
we could come up with the
yeah,
content,
we
but
could,
we're
but it's
thinking of
like
you
that's
weirdlings.
long, or should we do? I don't know. So we might add in a couple extra secrets, but I really don't want it to go over like an hour 15. I don't know. I don't want to be like Joe Rogan up in here,
I like
with
the
like the
hour.
3 hour
I think
long.
that's good.
But anyways, so yeah, so we're gonna do a couple extra secrets this episode. See what you guys think. Any other shows have been announced, some live shows. So I'm going to be in Southampton, New York. I don't even know if I told you this, James, yet.
August 2nd.
Yes, okay, I did. August 2nd, because it's just happened like 2 days ago. August 2nd, which is coming right up. So a couple weeks on Long Island, the way end in the Hamptons. So rich, so lavish. I don't know what we're gonna do for a hotel. Like, I gotta figure out like what because we're probably gonna want to sleep over that night.
True.
Anyways, that's another issue. But tickets are available now. 8 o'clock show. It's a Friday night. So if you're in the Hamptons, if you happen to be, come check it out. Also, I'm going to be at Soul Joe's, which is in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, like an hour and a half, I believe, out of Philly. And that's on August. Let me check. I'm so dyslexic that I like am now have to triple check all of my dates because I just never know if it's the right date. It is August 7th. I was going to say August 6th, so I'm glad I checked. Wednesday, August 7th at 8 p.m. It's at this really, really cool comedy club, Soul Joe's. That, funny enough, there might be some of you guys out there that maybe remember this. This was like in 2021. I went on the Hey Babe podcast. They did a live podcast at Soul Joe's. So now I'm going and doing my own show there, like crazy.
Yeah, that was a cool spot.
Yeah, that was so cool. I know that there's some people who are fans of those guys and have
Yeah, if you can
listened to
get
their
there,
episode.
great parking too.
Yeah, great. It's a really cool little venue, cool little town. But tickets are available, SamanthaRamsdell.com/events. Fun stuff coming up, more days coming up. Again, Maryland's. Hopefully we are going to go to Philly at some point this year. And New Jersey, working on some New Jersey shows. So more to come soon, but those are kind of the most up and coming and most pressing ones. But without further ado, I think that's any other things, James, you want to tell the people?
I think that
Any
you covered it pretty
other
well.
than you're just a little hungover today.
Yeah, that'll happen.
But James, like, you bounce right back. It's the Wisconsin in you. I swear to God. There's something in the Wisconsin's blood. Okay, so let's talk about Dudleytown.
Let's talk more about it.
Yeah.
Because I swear you've told me about it, but it was a while ago.
I've had to.
I think now that you've described it to me, I'm like, okay, I think you have brought it up.
Yep.
But where it's in
So it's in the northwest corner of Connecticut. It's in
kind of
Litchfield County.
kind of in the Mass area.
Yep, where we've been.
Yep.
We literally did like a Valentine's Day weekend. You remember that in Litchfield County?
Yes.
Right, almost like 10 miles from where this is.
Oh, no way.
Really, really
Okay.
close. So technically it was like a village. It wasn't really like a town. It didn't end up becoming like an actual town, but it was basically a village that's in Cornwall, Connecticut. And it has been called, quote unquote, the most evil place on earth. It has been called, quote unquote, it really literally is labeled now as the Dark Entry Forest. In order to get to it, you have to go to Dark Entry Forest Road. It also has been called the Village of the Damned. Again, Blair Witch Project was based off of this village, this old ghost town. And it also, by the Warrens, has been called a portal to hell. Okay. And again, if you're in Connecticut or if you live in this area, I need to hear all your stories. I would love for you to call in and tell me if I missed anything or if there's any stories that, if you've personally visited there. But it is always listed if you look anywhere like haunted places in New England, haunted places in Connecticut, it's listed as the most haunted place. Some people say, like, again, it's been listed as like the most evil place on earth. But it is known, it's a ghost town now. I mean, basically there's not even really much there. It's just this really dark forest. But it's known to be cursed, evil, and full of dark entities, ghosts, and like beasts, quote unquote, or like these like man beast figures and the entities in the woods.
Got it.
And again, the Warrens actually went and investigated back in like the 70s. And, they said that it was ruled by the devil and that no one should go there. And just let me say now, too, it is illegal to go there. So, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, stopped the podcast and you're like, let's plan a trip, do not go there. It is illegal. You will be arrested. And let me just say, too, I tried to go there.
Did you?
Yeah. So back
When?
in the day, well, it was part of my territory.
Okay.
So when I was in sales, when I was an outside sales rep, I covered the west part of Connecticut. So I would go up to Litchfield County. I would go up to this area all the time. I mean, a couple times a month at least. And it's a little bit of a haul from where we are. It's like an hour and a half drive, but it's gorgeous. I mean, up in this area,
It is
it
beautiful up
doesn't
there.
feel like Connecticut. I
No.
mean, like what most
It's
people
just a
think of
different
Connecticut.
part. Yeah.
Like, it's giving Maine vibes, really, really gorgeous, small towns. And I had a lot of clients up there. And anytime I was up there, because I'm so obsessed with all this haunted stuff, I'd always ask, be like, have you ever been to Dudleytown? What's the rumor? And so I'd always get these stories. And of course, one day I was just up there driving around. I'm like, okay, I got to go check this place out. So I go drive up Dark Entry Road, Forest Road. And first of all, there's cameras now. There's still like even some houses on the road leading up to the forest and so many signs. I mean, some people say now that there's like a state policeman that just will sit up there now
They are
24/7.
really seriously trying to keep people out of this,
And they
huh?
are like, if you go in, you will be arrested, you will be fined. Like, we are not
Wow.
messing around. This
Why?
is private property. Well.
Let's
I
find
will
out.
tell you. So I literally drove up there and there were just so many signs everywhere that I'm like, I just don't feel like being arrested today. And I turned around, but it does give spooky vibes, whether that's the placebo effect or not, just because it is so heavily wooded that it just dark, it's quiet, it's in the middle of nowhere. So to give a little bit of history of Dudley Town, so it was founded in 1740s
Okay.
by the first families that got there was the Griffiths family, and then shortly after was the Dudleys, which of course is what the town ended up being named for. But it was just perfect for farming. It was really lush with all these trees, the valleys. There's a Housatonic River is right there. So great farming area. And more families started to join the Dudleys and the Griffiths. So by the end of the 1700s, there was about, they said 26 families living there. So maybe
Oh,
close to like 100
at
people.
that time, yeah,
That's a
that's a
big,
village.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's like kind of a thriving little community. There also was iron ore, they said, discovered nearby for mining.
Okay.
So it grew even more at that point. It really was like over 100 people living there, thriving. And of course, it was in a lot of wood. So there's a lot of good timber for the local.
Mines are often associated with haunted areas, haunted
Yeah,
stuff.
because they're always digging through
Yep.
stuff, doing creepy stuff. But despite like in the early days that they were doing well and it was a thriving community, a lot of strange things started to happen around the town. So there was basically like this curse that they say, and I'll talk about the curse and some of the conspiracies surrounding the curse. But there was a lot of rumors of this curse where, like, if you were to enter this town in any way, shape, or form, you will die soon after. So if you enter this town and either if you stay there or if you leave, you are cursed and you will have bad luck and you will pass away shortly after. Okay. And this happened to many families. So one of the big early deaths was the Carter family who had come to join. It was in 1759. 6 members passed away from the family with some sort of disease. They now believe, of course, it's just hard with records going back that long exactly what it was, but they just said they became really ill. Now they're thinking it might have been cholera. But the rest of the family, there was like 3 of them that moved to Binghamton, New York, Binghamton, however you pronounce that, New York, to get away and just like leave the trauma. And they were all murdered and killed by a Native American tribe. In 1792, there's another family, the Hollister family, and also like people were just falling ill. And of course, it was the time of lots of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
diseases, cholera, tuberculosis. Um, but a family, Hollister family, ended up becoming very, very sick. They passed away super suddenly. They never know what happened to him. Like really what happened, again, they maybe guess it was cholera as well. But after that, there was a man who was part of the Tanner family that was helping watch over them. He started seeing really strange things. He was seeing figures in the woods. He would spend out a lot of time in the woods at night. Reportedly, he quote unquote went insane and passed away by schmooicide. Then their next door neighbor, Abel, also started doing the same thing, going into the woods at night, saying he was seeing weird creatures and things at night, and was also declared insane. And apparently he was like trying to do construction on his house and he passed away. There was another family, the Swifts. The father and wife were sitting on the porch one night, and out of nowhere, the wife was struck and killed by lightning. And the husband took his own life not too long after
Yeah.
because he was so sad. One of the other most, famous stories is the story of Horace Greeley. He was a really rich man who owned the New York Tribune at the time, which is a really big newspaper. Him and his wife Mary lived in New York City, but they wanted to escape and live in, out in the woods. So they went out to Dudleytown, and just again, mysteriously, well, they didn't really like it. Like apparently they got like really weird vibes, so they moved back to New York City a couple months later. And as soon as they got back, like there was all this rumors that like Horace was trying to run for, I think it was either president or something, again Ulysses S. Grant, or maybe the governor of New York. I can't remember the exact
That'd be
details.
presidency.
Maybe presidency. He lost. He was supposed to win, but he lost. And his wife also took her life like a week before the election. And then he mysteriously passed away a couple months after the
The
election
two
where he
they so they
lost.
oh wow. So
So it was just like a lot of misfortune. Like people just, if they left the Dudley town, they would pass away not long after. And literally one of the last families left in the late 1800s was the Brophies. But they also saw a ton of misfortune. Like all of the livestock was dying. Also, like over this time too, the mining for iron was running out. They didn't really need it anymore. They didn't need timber anymore. And it would like they turned out that like it was becoming harder to farm the things that they needed to in the land just because it got so cold in the winter. And it was like where they were, it was just really dark. They didn't get great sunlight. So it was just the last family, basically same thing. Like all of their livestock died. They were basically starving, and the wife ends up getting tuberculosis. The whole family gets sick. The whole family passes away from tuberculosis. And John, who was the father of the family, he was the last one left, last one in the town, last one left in his family. One night, his house mysteriously burned down, and he was never seen again. And that was
wow.
the last family. No one was left. So by the end of the 1800s, by 1900s, there was no one there. It was complete ghost town. And, it was just a lot of rumors, a lot of legends were starting to come out. So no one wanted to move there. Like they were trying to get people to go, and like everything was just abandoned. Um, but in 1906, there was a husband and wife, the Clarks. They were also from New York City. And Dr. Clark, the husband, Mr. Clark, he was an oncologist and made a lot of really good money. But they wanted to have a second home in Connecticut. So he purchased like 1,000 acres of land that included Dudleytown. And he wanted to build this gorgeous home, like almost right smack dab in the middle of Dudleytown. But no one would build it because all of the local people had heard all these rumors. They're like, I'm not going near there. I don't want to be cursed. So he ended up like having to build it himself, basically. So it took like years of him going back and forth, working in the city, and then on the weekends going to like have like literally his friends and family help him build this house. And then finally it was like in 1912, 1914, that they were able to live there, him and his wife, on the summer. And they were up there, everything was going great. And then one night he was rushed to New York City for an emergency. He needed to be there for something with his job. So he leaves, goes to New York City. After 36 hours, he comes home and he finds his wife like just first of all, he walks in and just hears screaming. And he's like, "What is going on?" Like he's like the like craziest sounds I've ever heard. And he runs upstairs and it's his wife. He's like, she literally was like leaning against the wall, looking like she was in so much pain, like she had been like literally seen a ghost, screaming at the top of her lungs. And she was claiming that creatures came out of the forest and attacked her. And he was like, she basically went insane. And she also took her own life not too long after this.
Wow.
So after that, this Dr. Clark, the husband, he was like completely shaken. He leaves the house. He's like, I'm over this area for now. And he's like, I don't really want to live there anymore. He ends up building a house like outside of Dudleytown. But in 1924, all this land was just sitting there. Him and a bunch of other local people ended up forming the Dark Entry Forest Association and labeled Dudleytown as like public land or like, like land preserve. They wanted like natural habitats, and it was technically public space, like people could go, but they wanted it mostly for nature and again for animal habitats, bird habitats, stuff like that. So, since 1924 until really like it was really like the 1940s, 1950s that again more of these stories started to come out. Legends are spreading, rumors are spreading. All of these, apparently like there was at one point like a horse ranch for like where they were trying to teach kids how to ride horses in the
Okay.
area. But like all the horses were acting weird and the horses were getting sick. So they ended up shutting it down. So like all these like trying to make these public like kind of community building, buildings or like either like there was trying to also be, I think they had said like some sort of campground, but everything would just go wrong. There were just all these issues. People again, like horses would get sick, just bad luck all around. They never were successful.
Yeah.
And then throughout the 80s and 90s, people would just try to go there for like the ghost hunting. Of course, all of this was spreading. Ghost hunting was becoming a thing. So people would travel from all over. And there are more of like these recordings of people seeing strange lights, seeing strange figures, hearing voices. Like a lot of people, one of the big rumors is that also you go into the forest and it's completely silent,
Okay.
except you'll hear like random scary voices every
Yeah.
once in a while. Also, the feeling like people are following you, feeling like, like feeling really sick, like that uneasiness, which is pretty typical with haunted places. If you know, you know. But by 1999, also just because there's so many foot traffic, all of the people like who lived close by were like, oh my God, there are always people out on my lawn, out on my property, people parking here all the time, vandalizing, leaving trash. Like people would go out there to sleep in tents and try and do all,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
party and do all this stuff. So by 1999, they're like, all right, we got to shut this down. And it is now, since 1999, a private property and no one is allowed to enter. And obviously, even more over the last 10 years because of social media, because of more documentaries and all these YouTube videos that have come out on it. Like, they were like, the traffic was so bad. Like, we would have hundreds of people
Oh my
here trying
God.
to, yeah, like in the forest walking around, like, not safe, just not safe. So as of today, from 1999, it is don't even try to go there. It's not even worth it. Like honestly, you'll get in so much trouble. And again, apparently there is like police watching at all times just because so much creepy stuff has happened.
Now, did any of these ghost hunters of these hundreds of people, did anything ever happen to any of them?
Well, of course, there's some YouTube videos and it's just always hard to like find proof. Like anyone could go in and say, saw weird things,
Of
I
course.
felt weird things. Like it's always what
But
we've
if the
talked
land
about
is
before.
cursed, you would think that if they went there,
Right. Well,
then
and
they're
that's what a
gonna
lot of
leave.
people point out is like, well, now since it's been around for hundreds of years, many, 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 many people have come and go and they're fine.
What other things did you find on
Okay,
this
so now
before I
let's
start
talk
my
about so
questions?
now let's talk about the curse, okay? So obviously there's the big rumors this land is cursed, and again, anyone who comes and then tries to leave or even steps on the land is cursed and will have misfortune and will pass away. So the biggest rumor, and none of these are really confirmed to be true from what I could find, okay? But one of the biggest rumors is all this started in England in 1510. One of the head patriarchs of the Dudley family, Edmund, he was beheaded for being involved in a plot to overthrow King Henry V.
Okay.
And there was a curse placed on his family, and he brought it from England to Connecticut when they went to settle.
That's there you answered my first question. Where did the curse start?
So that's the big one. There's also rumors that the Dudleys were Satanists. And there
Okay.
was also these rumors like they had this quote unquote magic book and that they, had started this area to open a portal of hell.
That's what they were trying to do.
That's what they were trying to do. There also are rumors that, and this part is true. The beginning part is that it was on Mohawk Nation sacred ground. So
Yes.
this was Native American land, and they believe that part of Dudleytown was built on a burial site for Native Americans. And the Native Americans, helped curse the land that these white crackers took from them.
Yep.
Then also there are all these other rumors too about like maybe why a lot of them were acting so insane or acting crazy was because there was some sort of poison in their food or their water.
Water
Yeah.
would have been that's my second question.
Yeah.
Has the water ever been tested?
So that was, perhaps from the iron, from the mining. Also, of course, too, there's rumors like anytime people are mining or digging, especially on a burial site, sacred ground, there can be some freaky things that you uncover when you do that. But also apparently there's like a type of mushroom, a poisonous mushroom that grows up in this area of Connecticut that can grow on a lot of wheat or rye or barley plants.
Yep.
And they had a lot of barley that they grew for farming in this area.
So if
like,
they ate it,
right. So they're like, maybe the mushrooms got somehow, tainted in the barley or the wheat that they were eating a lot of their food from. And that could have like poisoned them and caused them to go insane. So, and of course, it's also, people are like, well, that is also just like the times of living in the 1700s when it's like there's tuberculosis. There were so many, even like some people were looking in some cases and being like, these people might have had like early dementia where like some of them were acting insane. They didn't know how to label it at the time,
Nope.
so it was like that person went insane, the devil took over them. So, and of course, again, all of this, I would say most of it is hearsay. Most of it is rumors. I mean, the family parts and the dates are true. And even like the deaths, it's like, labeled as going insane or, taking the own life. But it's like, you just never know with old records or, old stories like this where things get just passed down over time. Like even some things like, there's some in, differences in some of the places I was getting some of this information. So, just very interesting. I love, of course, as I spoke last time, I love abandoned places. I love like a time capsule. I love ghost towns, like anything like that where it's the nostalgia. I know we talked about this last time, like where you're fascinated by the nostalgia, but also like it is crazy. Even just when I was driving up there, I'm like, this is crazy that this was one of the most thriving communities in Connecticut in
in
the
the area.
1700s.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just never know. Like, what's Stamford going to be in 300 years?
You
Like
never know.
nothing's permanent. We're just little specks in the world. So yeah, crazy. But just again, don't go visit. Um, and we do love that area. Like I would love to go back there just to like be close to it. And I even like if you go on YouTube, like you can try and find some pictures, but there really is nothing left. Like mostly everything at this time is like there's the old rock walls and there's like some structure, like some foundation of
Yeah,
buildings,
yeah.
but mostly like there's nothing much to see. I was trying to find videos to see if anyone's gone recently, what it looks like, but it's really just woods. So, and lots of ticks apparently.
What did the Warrens or what did some of the other investigators that might have thought, yeah, this place is owned by the devil? Why did they find that out? Like, what
Well,
did
they
they?
always thought the Dudleys were something was going on with the Dudley family that founded the town. Either again, they had this curse on them. They had all this, issues with them trying to overthrow the,
But the
the
Warrens, did they feel something or did they test something?
I don't know. Again, this was like, from the 70s and it's
Yeah.
like, I was trying to see, of course I'm like, is there any sort of like transcript from it? But I couldn't find much other than they went investigated it. They went and like they did their thing on the land. And I'm sorry, one of the biggest stories that I did talk about it. I couldn't remember if I talked the last house, the Clarks.
Yeah.
Apparently that house is still like somewhat standing, just because
Yeah.
that's the most recent. And there I saw some comments on some of these YouTube videos of people saying that like that place was extremely haunted, and that's like the Blair Witch Project, like when they're at the house at the end and like weird things have happened, like that's supposed to be the
Oh,
house.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So just crazy, crazy, crazy. And again, if you just like YouTube Dudley Town, you will find, if you want to look up some of the videos and stuff, you'll find a lot of stuff on it. But crazy stuff, right? What do you guys
Abandoned
think?
town right in Connecticut.
Yeah, and if
Wow.
you have, I'm curious too if there are any like abandoned towns again, like near you,
Yeah, in your state
spooky
or
things.
country,
Yeah, in your state or
wherever you're
country.
listening
Yeah,
from.
wherever you are, comment below, send it in. Call us on the hotline. But curious to hear what you guys think. Again, especially too, if you are from that area and if you've ever like been in the woods themselves.
And anywhere with spooky woods, like that was one of the
Yeah.
themes that when you were talking, that seemed to be a theme, was that people being attacked by things in the woods or something
Yeah.
coming out of the woods
Yep.
or people seeing things in the woods.
Yep.
Now, again, does that come from potential hallucination with poison
Right.
water or
Right.
mushrooms or right? Is that a hallucination thing or a
Yep.
paranoia thing? Or was there something in the woods?
Right. I know that's always like the age old question too of like the first person who discovered like psychedelic mushrooms.
Like
Like if you took it, you were like, wait, what is like that
you'd
would be
have
an
no
insane
idea.
experience. You're just like, oh, I'm just having a nutritious vegetable, and the next thing you know, you're time traveling,
Exactly. Well, and
calling
with
911.
the woods thing is interesting just because there's been so many throughout human history. There's stories of scary things in the woods.
Well, also let this be noted too is Dudleytown is also on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah,
So that has been a whole other thing. There's just so much to cover. Like, I've looked into the Appalachian Trail. I love stories of like the Appalachian Trail. I've told you, like, I love stories of like West Virginia, and there's a lot, again, talk about woods and spooky forests
yep.
and mining
Well,
and
when we were down in West Virginia and we stopped at that spooky place,
oh yeah,
they were
just
talking about there was a story about a creature in the woods,
yeah,
right?
a lot of
And then
creatures.
from the Midwest and the upper from the Midwest and the Northwest, you've got the old Bigfoot stories. Those
Right,
are around
right.
those,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So it's always stuff from the woods. There's always spooky
The
things.
woods are
The
so
dog, if you look up
spooky.
the dog man, there was one in Wisconsin of like a dog man in the woods, and he supposedly is in like either Michigan or Wisconsin. Yeah,
Interesting.
so there's
Yeah, I feel like
all these
every
woods
area of the country
has
or
their
the world has
folklore about that.
yeah, has their like local legend, beast, whatever,
Yep.
creature,
That's where the
creature.
woods part of that seemed to be a theme. It was like, okay,
Yeah, it's all very interesting. Obviously, I love all the spooky stuff combined with like the abandoned, it just, creams my Twinkie. Creams my Twinkie hard. So yeah, send us in, let us know, comment if there's any other creepy places that you know, or yeah, like local folklore that we should look into for next time, cuz I can't, this is one of those where like I just know so much about it cuz we're obviously here, but yeah, fun stuff. Okay, James.
Should we talk about other portals
Let's
to
talk
hell?
about other portals to hell. Speaking of portals to the underworld.
So what we want to take a look at, and so what we're I guess we're still calling James's Science Corner.
Yes, James's Science Corner looks at the
We want to
portals to
just
hell.
I just want to keep you up to date on cool stuff going on in
Oh,
science.
please.
And
Please
this
do.
one is about scientists are planning and plunging into the world's portal to hell. And
You heard it
some of
here.
the people involved in this were also uh the one of the owners, one of the original founders of Ocean Gate.
Of course he is. Of course.
Well, remember the guy who did own it died
Right.
by the Titanic.
Yep.
But the guy that is helping to take on this plunge into a portal to hell is one of the original founders. He just has a different company called like Blue Marble. And
Interesting.
what
Okay.
these are, you've probably seen these. You can search these very easily and find them. Is you just look for what are known as blue holes, or they're blue
Where it's like
sinkholes
really deep parts of the
where it
ocean.
goes really far down.
Yep.
The biggest ones are in the China Sea, but where they have the most of them are right over in the Bahamas. So
Well,
not
I
too
was just
far.
gonna say, what's funny is I just saw one of our friends. What were those? Shout out if they happen to be listening, but they moved to Belize.
Don McBride.
Yeah, and him and I don't know if they're married yet, but he was showing videos, and I forget what it's called. That it is. It's like this circle that everyone. I don't know if that one's it, but there's one, and you guys are probably all screaming at it. It's called like the eye of something. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Eye of.
There's a whole bunch of them. There's sinkholes that were developed. I believe what I read is they were developed during the Ice Age, and at a
Okay.
certain point when the Ice Age was ending and water was starting to fill up, these sinkholes
Yep.
remained intact. And this one, like you can
Interesting.
see, so Sam and I are looking at it, but if you look up these sinkholes, what it
What's
is
that one
it's
called that you're looking up right now?
this
Like,
one
what's the name of that?
is known as Dean's Blue Hole.
Blue Hole.
It's
Sounds
named Dean Blue Hole
kinky.
after a fisherman who found it.
Wasn't after
And
his butthole.
basically, there are these sinkholes, and they're kind of in the middle of like what you would think is more like
Shallow.
very
Yeah.
shallow water.
Yeah.
But this one in particular does go 663 feet deep. That's an estimation.
At the most deep.
At the most deep. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
deepest ones. There are deeper ones, but this is one of the deepest ones in that area.
Okay.
Right? And
oh, you know what? Sorry, it's called the Great Blue Hole. Is the one I'm thinking of, and it's
yeah,
and it's in Belize.
yeah, same kind of area,
and a
right?
lot of people. That's like a big like tourist site. Okay,
Oh
sorry. I
yeah,
just need to look that up because I know there are probably people out here like
they're
screaming.
there are these massive holes that people have never really explored before.
Yeah.
So they are going to take a submersible down. Now
Of
difference
course they are.
between this is this is so much safer than
I was gonna
Titanic.
say you're not going like
663 deep.
oh right, you're not
in
going
a
like what is
submersible.
it for
Yeah.
Titanic was like 20 miles. Like
Yeah,
something
they were down
insane.
miles. Yeah.
Not 20
Totally
miles,
different.
Yeah.
Let's find out what the Titanic was. The Titanic depth was.
So are they really saying like so obviously you're Mr.
Locals call this a portal to hell. It's not a portal to hell.
Right. Like I know you're gonna obviously, of course say that it's not a portal to hell, but like do people just because like do creepy things happen near them?
So let's talk about creepy things, right?
Okay.
James's version of creepy things.
Right. I know. And I know there's to a degree that you don't believe so much
Yeah,
of the
true.
creepy stuff. But yeah, okay.
But here's what it is. So there's some other important stuff going on in the science world right now, right?
Okay.
So they've just also now they're discovering new planets every day. And
Yep.
I know you love the idea of aliens. And
Yes, I do.
mathematically, aliens probably exist, right? Just with how vast the universe is.
Yep.
It's just not in the way that we think about them. However, they found a planet that is releasing methane and carbon dioxide
Okay.
meaning these are biological things that happen, meaning that it has potentially liquid water and the ability to sustain life.
Okay.
And so they think that they found another new ocean planet in an area that I think that they do call them the blue zones. Like we have blue zone,
In the
that's the health thing.
universe?
Yeah, in the universe, where a planet. So what it is a planet that's a far enough distance, similar to where we are from our star, our
Okay.
sun,
Yeah.
that it can sustain what we know as life. I keep
Okay.
saying things like what we know as, because there could be other forms out there we don't know about.
Right. Yeah.
But for what we know as life, or that could be formed in the universe, they look for these planets that would sit this certain way away from us, far away from a star. It
Yeah.
would have a circular almost or orbit around it. It would be consistent enough, and it would have to be at the right kind of temperature, right?
Right. Yeah.
But they
For
can
human
predict all
life.
these things, especially with some of the new technology like the James Webb Telescope. And that's what the James Webb Telescope is focused on. It was a $10 billion
Do you just like the James
telescope to put out.
telescope because it's called James?
Yes.
So what does this have to do anything with the blue holes, or is it just
Getting
another
back to
thought?
it.
Okay. 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 I was gonna.
You
We
said are
circling
creepy
back.
things happening.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
On an earlier episode, James's Science Corner, we covered a subterranean ocean that's bigger,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Here's where I'm getting with all that. In these blue holes, there could be areas where different life formed after the blue holes formed during the why can't I use words?
Beer brain.
Yeah, my brain's fried.
No brain
So
cells are
no brain cells.
left.
So after the ice age, I couldn't think of
Ice
ice age.
age. Tricky
After the ice
words.
age,
Tricky
so
words.
what could have developed down there, right? And again, now that
Right.
we know, could
So
this
aliens are living in the holes, is what you're saying.
like what could be forming down there? And it
Aliens
could
in our
tell us
holes.
now if a planet in outer space that went through an ice age, but then the water started melting, right? Now, can we use this information to find life on these other planets?
Interesting.
That's why I think they're
So you think
connected.
there's aliens in our dark holes?
Yes, aliens in the holes.
Aliens are in our holes.
Well,
We
also,
haven't looked down there. What else could be down there? Spooky things are at the bottom of the ocean. I don't trust anything
I
down there.
love bottom of the ocean stuff. One of the theories of where life might have started on our planet, creationists aside, is at at an underwater volcano. Like one of the underwater volcanoes
Right.
deep in the
Yeah.
Pacific, that there's these new life forms that are forming all the time. And they're
Interesting.
because they can form at such a huge depth and temperature, right? It's boiling hot volcanic water coming out.
Yeah.
So miles below the ocean, so it's high pressure. That type of cell or life form would be able to survive almost anything. It'd be like the cockroach of bacteria, right?
Right.
And that's what might have was able to stem some sort of cellular life on our planet too.
Whoa. So how do the aliens get formed now? That's the question.
Just like us,
Just like us
over a long period of time. That's
so
what they're looking
we're
for.
literally creating aliens. We're creating life.
They're looking for it.
Alien life.
Yep. That's
Interesting.
what we're finding out.
So when are they doing these dives? Should we keep
This
an
one's
eye
coming
out?
up. Yeah, keep an eye out for the dives going on. They're going to see what's on there. There's dead bodies down there for sure, so they're going to find bodies.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love.
Well, it's
dead
because
stuff.
people were trying to like set records for holding their breath down these stupid sinkholes.
Oh my god, there was that documentary. I cannot. That stuff. Oh my god, talk about just because of my claustrophobia.
I know.
And like again,
And these
dark
deep,
waters,
these dark
deep
ones,
dark waters.
and you saw how dark the water is.
No,
You
I
would
can't
not do
remember
well.
what the name of the documentary was. I don't know if you guys saw it on Netflix. We
But
watched
the
a little bit of it,
breathing,
and then I
yeah,
was like,
the-
I can't watch this anymore because it's
I
giving
think
me
it was called
anxiety.
A Single Breath.
I think it was. Yeah, I was gonna say it was something
Yeah.
like that.
I couldn't think of Ice Age, but I got that one.
Yeah. But that gave me so much anxiety. It's the same thing too as like cave divers. You ever see those people who like go
Oh, I think
cave
that's
exploring?
fascinating.
Are you out of your stop doing that? Like that is literally let's go into the smallest, darkest, deepest parts of the world and see how that goes and turns out. Oh my god, some of those videos, there's some people that will video themselves doing that, and like I can't even watch them, they
You
pop
can't
up
even
on
watch the
TikTok.
video.
Oh my god. There's another guy on TikTok who did like craziest ways to die.
Okay.
And he's talked a lot about some of these because like what a horrible way to die. You're just stuck in this hole
Yep.
underground for losing your mind. It's like being buried alive.
Yep.
Like who does that for fun? For real. For real. They need to look at there's poison mushrooms in their barley. Maybe they got a portal to hell in their brain cells, because that sounds
That would be
horrible.
like hell for you.
That would never, ever, ever. I can barely go on a freaking airplane these days. My freaking claustrophobia and anxiety. Anyways, that was a gorgeous, great tie together. Portals to hell. What a fascinating subject. What other portals to hell do you guys know about? Do you guys know about a portal to hell? Anyone, heard about one near them? I love the idea of like a portal to hell, because like, what really is a portal to hell? Like, can you step into hell? Just like the beasts come out of it?
Now we're in more religion, theology, and philosophy. Do we want
Yeah,
to
are there any
explain
like
it?
devil people? Devil people? Are there any devil people out there? Or like, like what is a portal to hell? Maybe someone out there knows more about that than I do, but you just hear that thrown around a lot,
Kind of just
to
gets
not have a
thrown out there
definition.
willy-nilly.
Yeah, a lot of portals to hell around everywhere. So how many portals to hell? It's crazy. Anyways, James, thank you so much. That is really fascinating, because it was just funny that I just had seen the great big blue butthole in Belize, and I was like, oh yeah, that is really cool. Like, what's down there? Creepy stuff. By the way, if you ever want to like give yourself nightmares, take a gummy and watch Craziest Deep Sea Underwater Creatures. There's nothing scarier. You can't convince me that those aren't aliens.
Oh, I know the depths.
Yeah, like the aliens are being created down there. You actually, like
There's
all
some
of it,
great documentaries on Netflix about that.
Yeah, deep sea underwater creatures.
Mm-hmm.
The craziest, spookiest looking things you'll ever see in your entire life, like on the bottom
of the
floor.
ocean.
Oh my god! I hope if I ever die, I don't come back as one of those deep sea creatures.
You know that there's sharks. What are they called? The Greenland sharks. That live to be about like 600 years old.
And they're
because
down
their
there?
metabolism is so slow. Yeah.
Whoa.
There's a theory that one of those sharks is actually the Loch Ness monster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of fun to look up. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll look up that next. Fascinating stuff. All right, everyone. I think it's time.
It is time.
It is time for secret. Yeah, that's right. It's time for weird secrets. One of our faves, some of our faves. There's always the thing about feedback is like, some people are like, eh. Some people are like, that's my favorite part. I only listen for the secrets. I'm like, wow, really? You're missing on such great stuff. Anyways, that's for my own brain to deal with. But you can call in, leave us a weird secret. Tell us about something, a weird
portal to hell.
Weird portal to hell.
Barley
weird
mushrooms.
Folklore. If you've been on mushrooms and done something crazy. Anything weird, call us in at
SpeakPipe.
That's speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. Again, speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. Again, it's always anonymous. You can leave up to 1:30. You can do it anywhere as long as you have a phone. Super, super easy. Check it out. Send it in. And again, like we've thrown out a lot of topics recently, so some of them are a little similar, but I thought this one was really interesting and tie back to one of our older podcasts that I wanted to ask you about, James. I thought this was just like a good subject, and I'm interested how many people will be interested in talking more about this. But here we go. Here's the first one.
Hi, Sam and James. So I really enjoyed your Unlocked episode. As soon as you started talking about it, I actually paused, watched the whole thing, and then came back. I studied criminology in university. I work in the system. So I found it really fascinating to see from a United States perspective. Something that you might find interesting if you liked and are fascinated by this type of more freedom model of community in prisons is maybe take a look at minimum security in Canada. Really fascinating stuff. The individuals cascade down from medium securities, sometimes maximum securities in other provinces, and then if they continuously do well, they end up in a minimum security before they get released. Here in Canada, we have 25 years life, which means you're eligible for parole after 25 years. And this minimum security model is extremely helpful for bringing down our recidivism rates, and I've seen a lot of success in it. So take a look at minimum security in Canada. You might find it interesting.
So another one of my favorite things to research and talk about is like prisons.
Yep.
I think it's fascinating. We've been to a ton of haunted ones. That's like one of my favorite haunted places to go to. Just really fascinating. I think also it's because like, I mean, knock on friggin' wood, I've never been to prison. I don't know anyone who's been to prison other than like, I forget, like there's a lot of people were kind of giving me feedback, like jail and prison are two different. I forget what the definition is. Like one's like jail, I think is like for more like misdemeanor type crimes. Prison is
Jail's like if you get arrested for the night. Like if you
yeah,
get a DWI, you go to
right.
jail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Versus like a prison is like
They're
more
sentenced
serious.
and you go there.
Right. So and it's fascinating. There's a lot of talk, you know, not to get political, but a lot of talk, you know, about it now in our country and what our country's prison system looks like and just a lot of the injustices and like how different it is country to country. Like how she was saying she's in Canada. I didn't have a ton of time to do a bunch of research, but it is really interesting the idea of like a tiered system where there's super high security, and as you make good behavior, or as you know, are practicing good behavior, you continually get more and more freedoms to the point where she was saying these minimum securities are almost like communities.
It I do not know enough about it to
Yeah, I
comment too
don't
much.
know my basic Google search.
I loved that recommendation that you had though, and that's
Yeah.
something I'm going to dive into.
Yeah, I thought that would be something that's interesting.
Thank you so much for calling in. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened to that episode on Unlocked or watched it on Netflix, super interesting. This was a couple months ago now, but it is really big look at human psychology
It was
in
a
general.
really good, yeah.
And just on because like you never know, like we're also like always like 2 seconds away from going to prison ourselves, you know, like one wrong move, you know, like manslaughter. Like think about it, James. Like you get too close to a hill, like push you down by accident.
I know you think about that all the time.
No, I'm kidding. I literally joke way too much about killing James. James probably honestly thinks I'm trying to murder him, but I just do it because I think and listen to way too much of these true crime shows. But I thought that was interesting. Thank you for calling in. And if you have any prison stories, anything weird, spooky, haunted prison stories, let us know. Call us in. All right. Now, are you ready for a weird travel story? Here we go.
Hey, Sam and James. I have a nightmare plane story for you. When I was like 11 years old, my dad surprised me with a trip to Hawaii for Christmas. And we live in California, so it's kind of a straight shot over water to the Hawaiian Islands for us. And so we take off, and we're a little bit more than halfway there. So it's too late to turn around, if you know what I mean. And we're going, and we hear this commotion kind of behind us, and we look back, and there's like a flight attendant like banging on the bathroom door, and then we kind of look closer, and there is diarrhea all the way, starting like 6 seats back, all the way, a trail of diarrhea into the bathroom, and we're like, oh my God. And then this smell hit us, and it was absolutely horrific smelling, and like sick shit, you know what I'm saying? And they did their best to clean it up, but it just ended up smelling like shitty flowers, you know, like aerosol and shit mixed together. So anyway, it was awful, and it was too late to turn around, so we had to all just sit there and deal with it until we landed. And the guy stayed in the bathroom the whole time. He didn't come out. I think he was probably pretty embarrassed. I think I would have stayed in there too, because everyone on that plane was pissed. Anyway.
Oh, seriously, this is why like planes, like way too many of these stories lately about like people shitting and coming down the aisles to the point where like they have to stop the plane and turn around.
I'm trying to picture it. So this guy had diarrhea.
Yeah.
And just shit down the aisle.
Yeah. I don't know, because like there's so many stories lately about like shitting down the aisle. So it's like I don't know if like the toilet overflows, you know, and then maybe it's spilling out,
That's what
and then
see, that
that's
was
what
the
I
other
was
thing I was
thinking.
wondering. Yeah,
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 because
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
how can you really shit that much that you're shitting down, or
That's
like,
what I'm
you know,
trying to picture.
right? I would assume maybe it overflows, but I mean, talk about also the most embarrassing thing. Like, yeah, that poor guy. Like, you have diarrhea. Like, I mean, if you would just think like if you're sick, you probably wouldn't want to go on that flight
That's what I'm
anyways.
wondering. Like, if you know, like,
But sometimes you just don't know. Like, you know, like you do hear some of these stories where it's like, you know, you had a bad Wendy's, or like, you know, you were
yeah.
brave at the airport and tried like the sushi, and next thing you know, you're boarding the flight and you're
And
like, what
maybe you
the
were traveling from a different country,
right.
right? No, maybe he was coming from South America or Mexico, drank bad water,
Right,
got on the
right. You
plane
didn't
in
even
California
know.
to go to
Yeah, yeah,
switch
yeah.
flights, right?
Yep, yep. Yeah, that is literally my worst nightmare. Being in any of the situations, being any single person in that situation, whether you're the guy who did it
Or just being on the
or
plane.
being on that plane. Oh my god, that is one thing. Like we talked about
The poor
weird
flight
fears.
attendants, how do they
Oh
deal
my,
with that?
I know. Flight attendants deserve to be paid way more. They're like teachers, you know, like having to babysit people on planes. I'm so sorry to hear about that flight, but at least you hopefully made, like, it sounds like you made it, and hopefully the trip to Hawaii made up for it, because I still have never been to Hawaii and it's on my list. All right. Here's one that I thought was really interesting about, speaking of like spooky dreams. Okay.
Spooky
Here we go.
dreams.
Hey, Sam and James. So, on the topic of sleepwalking, when I was younger, was totally a notorious sleepwalker. But weirder than that, and it has followed me for literally my entire life. I'm 26 now. I remember having vivid dreams at probably by the age of 5. And they started out with spiders crawling all over the walls, like weaving their webs above me, in front of me, where like I wake up and I want to reach out and touch them. And then it turned into, over the years, like fish, swimming above me, vines and trees growing out of the walls, and waking up and like thinking that there's bugs in the bed and shaking them out. And now my husband, knows what's happening, and he's like, babe, there's nothing in the bed, nothing. So that still happens. And I also have very, very vivid dreams. But one thing I do know that wasn't a dream. So I used to live in a Victorian home, and it was a funeral home back in the 1900s. And my room was where they drained the bodies. And I woke up one night and to the bed shaking like up and down, like a child was jumping on it. And I look over into the cove of my room, and I see a hand that was glowing. It waved at me, and then it disappeared and went away. And that house was definitely notorious for being haunted, but gently. So yeah, that's my story.
So first of all, I love a spooky story, love a ghost story. That's insane that you would move into a house that was a funeral home.
That could have been a two-parter.
Two-parter.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That's really good stuff right there.
And I feel like there is someone else had called into, and one of the voicemails I need to catch up to. A lot of talk of spiders. I don't know if that's just because that is obviously like a top fear,
Fear, absolutely.
A lot of talk when people have these sleep paralysis or sleepwalking nightmares, a lot of like seeing spiders, growing spiders on them, like being stuck, in sleep paralysis and just seeing spiders
you
on
don't
them.
like spiders, but you really are scared of snakes.
Right.
You have the same visceral reaction.
Yeah, like if there was a spider, like, like I'm not to the point where like, I have some friends that like if they even see a spider in the room,
I've
lose their
met
minds.
people like that.
Yeah. Like I could see a spider, even if it was crawling, I
you don't freak
but
out
I'm not going to lose my mind. I don't know what it, like I love all animals, obviously. And I don't know why. It's just because like I've also like gotten scared by snakes as a kid that have scared the shit out of me and have kind of bit my finger.
Yeah. Okay.
Not hurting me, but just enough that it scared me.
Yeah.
And then now I kind of have that in my head. I think it's just because also like they're so good at being hidden and like in the woods. If like you see one,
we were hiking one time and you saw a snake and I'd never seen you jump like that before.
Oh my God. Because it's just, and I think too, like there's not spiders around here that are going to kill you.
No.
But there are
there
some
There's
around here.
Spiders, yeah.
Oh, well, not anything that's on like be in our bed at
No,
night, maybe. Or be in the house. But like there's definitely some snakes around here that can kill you.
There's some. There's not as many, but
So that's, that's I think my biggest reason. But like if someone's like has like a nice snake, this is a snake, it's not gonna harm you, it's not
you
poisonous.
could hold it, I'm sure.
I would I've held them and been fine. But
for her story with the spiders, it is interesting people that do have vivid dreams over and over and over and over again.
Well, yeah,
and
and
they
again,
remember
like,
them so well.
Like there have been multiple voicemails, people calling in and saying, my sleep paralysis is that I'm laying in bed, I can't move, and there's spiders all over me.
Yeah. The spiders, snakes, like those are kind of like common visceral,
the most common fears
that people have.
Yeah. All right, speaking of fears, all right, we're gonna do one more. So I'm trying to like play around with like what the sweet spot of doing secrets, and again, I kind of am trying to balance them too. If some of them are longer than others, some are shorter. But here's the last secret of today. Here we go.
Okay, so I'm watching the episode where you talk about irrational fears and Disney. And my irrational fear was sparked by a Disney movie that is also a Disney ride. So it is, my irrational fear is elevators. And it's not the enclosed spaces. I am terrified that the elevator is going to just drop, like, and not just like drop a little bit, like completely plummet all the way to the bottom and crash Tower of Terror style. And it's because I watched that movie when I was a kid and am just like terrified that I'm going to plummet to my death every time I get into an elevator, even though like logically I know that the odds of that happening are very small. And I'm sure James' science brain is like, oh yeah, the odds of that happening are very small. But like my brain doesn't care about that. My brain does not process that when I get into an elevator and there's any sort of movement. My brain feels the movement and instantly goes, well, I'm about to die. And so if I can avoid taking the elevator and it's only a few floors, I am taking my ass up those stairs every single time.
So I thought this was such a relatable thing.
It is very
for good fears. I was like, wow, that's good. I didn't even think about elevators, but elevators are so spooky. More for me because of the enclosed
claustrophobia.
space.
You know what's funny?
What?
Yes, my science brain does say it's very unlikely to happen.
Right.
But my fear of heights, I actually share her fear of elevators more than your fear of elevators more. The enclosed space does not bother me. But if an elevator does rattle, I don't like that.
In one of those where it's like the window.
Those I don't like. We've been on those before. I stand by the door. I can't stand by the edge of those.
Yeah. Or like my greatest fear with an elevator is being like in the enclosed space and being locked in, like getting stuck, trapped. And I think my fear got a little bit better as we got cell phones. Like as a kid, I could never go into an elevator by myself. I would never.
I see that.
Because if I was stuck in there, like there's really, you can't, like sometimes they have the little phone. Yeah, but like funny enough, we went to Puerto Rico when we were kids and Ian got locked in an elevator and they didn't have one. We like rented, like this is before Airbnb. It was like VRBO, like vacation rental in a condo, and they didn't have that phone or it wasn't working. And Ian was locked in there for like 2 hours.
No, really?
Yeah. So that like spark, was like
that would spark fear. I can see that.
To be like, oh my god, I would have lost my mind.
Especially if your brother experienced it.
Yeah,
I can see Ian handling that a little better.
Yeah, he's so
than
chill.
You.
He's just like, whatever. This is nice. Have some alone time.
Yeah,
away from you freaks. And then I was also gonna say, I also am terrified of escalators.
Yeah, you don't like escalators.
I used to.
You used to think you were gonna get. I remember. I'm gonna let you
buy
tell
an escalator. I know I've told you this. Like I could never ride unless my mom picked me up. Like literally until like I was probably a teenager. I was terrified of escalators, and I feel like we don't talk about that enough. Stair escalators, not really like the ones at the airport where like you can walk. Like those are really. But even stair escalators today, like it takes me like I have to take a deep breath and like make sure I'm planting my foot correctly.
Tell the people why do you think that
because they're like, first of all, I'm afraid I'm gonna get taken under. And there was this thing about a girl who had like fallen and then her hair got stuck.
Got stuck in it.
and she like this was like an old rumor, but like that she died from, and she like got like her head like halfway sucked into an escalator. Yeah. So I'm also like anything like that just scares me. Spooky, spooky stuff. But always like it's funny, like when you think back, like there's always some story or like something that
That tied
sparked or
back to it.
like
Absolutely.
some sort of experience that ended up causing mass fear. So yeah, and I love that we're all just afraid of this of weird shit, even though it's not really weird. Like again, the more like I listen to some of these secret voicemails, like we all are scared of the same things, having the same nightmares,
It's so
doing the
funny. Yeah.
weird thing. It's like I love it. I love it. But if you have a weird secret, weird story, something weird, you can call us at
SpeakPipe.
That's speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. Again, speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. It'll be in the description. Also, if you're listening, watching, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're following on Instagram. And if you're still listening, we would love, love, love a 5-star review. Again, I know it's so annoying, but you have no idea how much that helps. It's all like a numbers game with podcasts. And the best way is getting more reviews. You get pushed out more. So, and eventually maybe one day we can get like really, really high quality mics. We could like get a studio where we don't have cats jumping everywhere.
Nah, we gotta have the cats.
Yeah, I know. I guess that doesn't really matter, but like maybe I can upgrade some of this equipment a little bit more, and maybe even pay to have someone help me edit some of the stuff so it doesn't take me 500 million years. So to make long, like that's the thing too, is like the longer the podcast, the more podcasts I do, then it's the more hours that I have to,
Yeah.
sit and do
You're
it.
so
So
good.
like, then maybe I can like pay to like help someone edit and like help produce. So if you could, 5-star review would be amazing. Also, come see us live, SamanthaRamsdell.com/events. And let us know what you thought of the episode. Comment below, send us a message. And we love you guys so much. We hope you have a great summer, not melting too much. James, anything else you want to say to the people?
Love you, weirdlings.
We love you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.